over here. Right. Okay. So I've got to disclaim this again by saying we're not able to take responsibility for this advice. As you guys will know, we're probably one of the only few firms who within 3 hours of this announcement and similar last Friday have put on a webinar. So there may be some mistakes in this. It's literally something I've wanted to put on just to help not only our clients, but just anyone else you know who's self-employed as limited companies. Because right now, honestly, I don't really care if you're our client or not. Obviously, I can't give you specific advice if you're not a client. But we just want to help as many people as we possibly can right now. So to start now, so what is it that's been announced today? It sounds incredibly similar, really, to what was announced on the last Friday for employees, and that is that 80% of income for self-employed businesses, sole traders, is to be covered. And what they're going to look at, how they're going to calculate this, is it will be an average of the last 3 years up to and including the 2019 tax return. So just to make that point again, it is those tax returns that ended on the 5th of April 2019 and that you hopefully would have submitted by the 31st of January 2020. But I honestly, I didn't really expect this at all. But the Chancellor has given those taxpayers who haven't even filed as yet another 4 weeks grace period to file these tax returns. So up until the 23rd of April 2020. So if you've not filed your 18-19 tax return, please file it ASAP. What does it cover? It covers only those with up to £50,000 of trading profits. So trading profits tells us this is not for those that have rental properties. It may include those that have furnished holiday lets because that's counted as a trade. But again, I'm not 100% sure on this yet. But it does not count rental income on this. And one of the other big caveats, as you can see, is that the majority of your income must be through self-employment. The majority. So if you had a tax return from us or from your accountant and it had a self-employment supplement on there, so have a look at your tax return. You will have had it emailed by us if we've done your tax return because you would have had to approve it. And so if there's a self-employed supplement on there, then you're probably halfway there. Then you need to check if your self-employed profit is more than 50% of your total income. So the majority of your income must be through self-employment. This does not cover most directors, in my opinion, by the way, because they are usually classed as employees. They'll either be on the payroll or they won't. I'll come back to that in a moment. But the majority of small limited companies will have a small director's salary and dividends. Neither of these are covered by what has been announced today. So I'm just going to repeat that again for clarity. This more than likely does not cover directors because most of them will be drawing a salary and dividends. They will not be covered under this scheme. The grant is indeed taxable, so when you do your tax return next year, you will need to include details of the grant that is in there. And the biggest one, which was, I just listened to the first couple of minutes of question time about an hour or so ago, was by a gentleman who started being self-employed since the 6th of April 2019. He is at the moment not covered. The person representing the Conservative Party did say write to us and we will take whatever we can into account. But then if you look at the government guidance on this, that's literally just come out about 20 minutes ago, I think. I'll post the link to that as well. It says do not contact us because if you contact us, it will put everyone else back because they don't have a lot of labour right now. So from my understanding, this does not cover those who registered for self-employment after the 6th of April 2019. I had another question I just remembered that I will just cover right now at this point as well. I don't think this will cover capital gains, not foreign income, anything like that. It is literally just self-employed income over that 3 years up to including the 2019 tax return. In terms of mechanics, unfortunately, I have a lot of people say, well, what are we going to do until June? And that is when this scheme will be up and running. By the way, that doesn't necessarily mean that the money is going to be paid in June. They think it will be up and running in June. And the HMRC, it says the HMRC will contact you directly. Nothing until then, aside from universal credit. So they're really stressing the fact that, and if you heard the questions to Rishi Sunak after his announcement, they were asking about the resources dedicated to putting this sort of plan into action. And he said that because the employment support was announced a week ago, it is likely that anything that requires precedent in terms of HMRC's resources or the Treasury's resources will go to that scheme first, which is why I don't think this is going to be any time before the end of May before they write to anyone for this. So they will write to you. And then I'm thinking it's going to be at least 4 weeks before you're going to get anything out of this. It's just a personal opinion, just based on my experience with the HMRC so far. So I'm just going to recap again. I'm sorry if I'm boring you on this, because especially for those watching the webinar, it is crucial we understand that this is for those that are self-employed, a maximum of 50k of trading profits over the last 3 years, up to and including the 2019 tax return. I just added another little slide on this, just as that guidance web link came up about 20 minutes ago. So this is a little bit of an addendum. So obviously they say you have to have submitted your tax return for the year ended 6/4/2019. Now that confuses me a tiny bit, because what if you were self-employed in the 17 and 18 years but not in the 19 year? I don't think that means you're covered, because the one below says you must have traded in the year 1920. You're trading when you apply, i.e. have to currently be self-employed, or you would be if it wasn't for coronavirus, COVID-19. And that you've lost trading profits due to COVID-19. I think that last one's probably quite an easy one for most people in this scenario. And again, I'm putting this on bold right now. Please do not contact the HMRC or indeed us, because we cannot in any way help you apply for this. They will write to you if indeed you are eligible. So a couple of questions that I've just seen on some of the WhatsApp groups that I'm a part of, and just online on Facebook groups. What if you registered after the 6th of April 2019? I did kind of cover this maybe a couple of minutes ago. I don't think you're going to be covered. That's sort of my personal opinion. And what if you don't have consistent income throughout the 3 years? I know some of my clients are kind of actors, etc. A lot of performers have very lumpy income, and that was one of the issues that they've had, which is why they want to look back 3 years and take an average. So if you don't have consistent income, they will literally take as much of the 3 years as you have by way of info, and basically chop it by 36 if you've got 3 years, or 24 or 12 if you've just got 1 year. And what if you weren't self-employed for the whole 3 years? And again, I think there may be some coverage as long as you were self-employed in that 18-19 year. If you ceased in that year or before, I don't think you're going to be covered. That's sort of my personal call on this. So just to go back to this again. So that, to be fair, really does cover the crux of what was announced today. If you have watched any of the other webinars, feel free now to kind of turn away if you want for a couple of minutes, because I'm just quickly going to recap for those that didn't watch on Friday night, just a couple of the measures that were introduced last Friday and then obviously since. So those that have staff or are on PAYE, i.e. do they get salary slips from us on a monthly basis, or from their accountants, or produce salary slips, they are those that will be covered by the coronavirus job retention scheme. So if you don't run payroll, you will not be covered. It will be backdated to the 1st of March. There'll be an initial 3-month period. And you can't just register now as a limited company, because I had this question last week. I've checked this. You can't just register now as a limited company and backdate, because you have to have been on the payroll at the 29th of February 2020. And again, the final most crucial point that I've had a lot from clients as well is we cannot apply for you right now. There will be a portal, and clients will have to apply directly on this, because you will need to hold records of your furloughed employees, i.e. who's not working right now. Because if your employees are working, you're generating income, this is not for you. It is for those who can't work, maybe because they've got staff who have to be at home because they're not key workers. If for any reason due to COVID, your staff cannot work, that is when this scheme applies. So please remember, you cannot apply for this and your employees be working, because if this is investigated, you'll probably get into a lot of hot water. The VAT holiday, just to clarify again, so if you've got any VAT payments due from now onwards, they are not due to be paid until the end of June 2020. But this does not mean that they are waiving VAT payments. It just means you have longer to pay. Again, maybe just to use as cash flow to pay your furloughed employees, etc., etc. So it's just giving you a little bit of time to pay automatically. But please file your VAT returns as normal. It doesn't mean you don't need to file your VAT returns. Self-assessment payments, again, a lot of people will have payments on account at the 31st of July. They are not now payable. You literally just pay the correct amount of tax on the 31st of January, by the 31st of January 2021. So no more payments on account for this year. Universal credit, I went through this again on Friday. So again, this is kind of pertinent as I've written for those who registered for self-employment after the 6th of April 19. Universal credit, it seems, is the only thing you can use right now. And even, by the way, if you are, if you do still count for the measures announced today, you can still apply for universal credit until you get the self-employed scheme that has been announced today. The business rates assistance, again, for retail, hospitality and leisure, that is again automatic. It's through the council. They will write to you and tell you that your business rates are free, and if you're due for it, you might get a cash grant of up to £25,000. Your council will write to you if you are eligible for this. So you basically need to have a premises for any of these type of scenarios. Same for the cash grants for other non-retail hospitality businesses. If you're due the one-off grant of £10,000, you already receive, or you either pay rates or you get small business rates relief. So you are a business that occupies business property, not working from home. And automatic, the council will write to you if you're eligible, hopefully within weeks, and hopefully definitely by the end of April. The business loan scheme started this week. If any of you guys are not sure, please contact your own business banks first. They should be your first port of call. It is for solvent trading businesses. It's just a regular loan. All the government is saying is it's going to be interest-free for 12 months. The link is on there as well in terms of how you apply for it. And again, this is direct with the banks, not through your accountants or your financial advisors. But maybe your financial advisors can help you with this. But you need to go to your advisor. You should go to your main business bank first. So, summary for sole traders and self-employed: 80% of your profits averaged over the last 3 years will be paid. Less if you have less tax returns, but you need a minimum of 1 year. It's a grant, so it doesn't need to be repaid, but it is taxable. But one of these things that came up actually was on a Facebook group that I just saw about an hour ago. You can claim this and continue working. You don't need to be furloughed with this, with the sole trader self-employed help today, which I think is absolutely amazing. So you don't have to be furloughed. You can carry on working and still claim this. The grant will be paid in a single lump sum for the whole 3-month period initially. And something that's also very, very beneficial for a lot of my clients I know is it is also for members of partnerships if your partnership share is less than the £50,000. So it is available for partnerships. So if you've got 3 partners, each drawing 30k each on their tax return, you will get this as well. If you're, say, 2 partners and your profits were 51,000 each, you simply won't get it on average. And if you have premises, then the cash grant is available. I'm not going to summarize this again, but again, if you're a small limited company, if you're on PAYE, you're drawing that director salary, you will get 80% of that when the portal opens. If you're not running payroll, then there's no help. Dividends are not included. And finally, for larger limited companies, there's no scale for this. I'm kind of trying to give a couple of working examples. and you have a lot of staff, then you're probably on the payroll, your staff probably are, and if they're furloughed, they can't work, then you are covered for up to 80% for at least 3 months. And again, if you have premises, then it's likely you'll probably benefit from the cash grant as well. So just to conclude, just one final point, the mortgage holiday, I've just heard this and I needed to kind of make this point. Please apply to your lender for the mortgage holiday, the 3-month mortgage holiday. This is not my area of expertise, but please don't simply stop paying because it will affect your credit rating. Apply to them no matter how long it takes, stay on the line for hours, days, whatever it takes. So welcome to our world, with the HMRC, I guess. But please, please, please speak to your mortgage company before you stop paying. A couple of thank yous again, really a big thank you to Olivia of IO Branding. She kindly did the lovely infographics that are on our socials. That really made last Friday's announcement nice and easy, and hopefully we'll do the same for today's as well, so they're kind of shareable on kind of social media. And a huge thank you, and also just a little bit of a prayer, or just a big thank you really for Kieran. He almost had an accident probably a couple of hours ago. He's thankfully okay, but he's literally jumped on 5 minutes before this to help me moderate this again, so I can focus on talking. So just a huge thank you to Olivia of IO Branding. They do all your social media. So if you need any social media, speak to Olivia, IO Branding. And Kieran Wynyard of Dream Raven Design, great graphic designers and web designers. They can help you with your website and updating that right now if you need anything. And so to a last aside that we did last week, someone asked, am I going to charge for this? I said, no, I don't want to, because this is really to help. But a lot of you guys know that a cause very close to my heart. I'm the treasurer of a charity called PAGE, the Pakistan Alliance for Girls Education. We build micro schools for girls in Pakistan. So if whatever you feel like this has been worth for you, it's £1, it's £5, it's £10, it doesn't matter. It costs us £60 a year to educate a girl through our schools. So and to sponsor a school for a whole year costs only £3,600, which I know is a lot right now. I'm not expecting that, but it's just so you guys know how manageable that is. The account details are there. I'll share those again on the socials and on the email. But if you can make a little donation as a thank you, if you found this useful, then I'd really appreciate that. And finally, just that last little link from Money Saving Expert, just that summarizes a lot of what we've spoken about just now as well. So I will now stop the share on this so you guys can see my mug again. And so I will now ask again that you guys please write your questions on the chat. Kieran will hopefully then unmute himself, read them out on your behalf, and we can then go through those in a clear and logical way. Thank you everyone for listening so far. Kieran, over to you.
Okay, thank you, AJ, for that good summary. The first question from the room is from Stuart Cullip, and it's, can you claim for 2 retail premises, one in England and one in Wales?
The honest answer to that is I don't know. I think it is only one premises. I saw this on an accountant's network a couple of days ago. But because we don't know how that's going to be implemented yet, because the councils are going to write to you, it could just be that people fall through the net and councils write to them twice. But my hunch is this is only available for one premises.
Okay, from David Bryant. For year 17 and 18, traded as a limited business. The limited business dissolved, and then they have been trading as a partnership in financial year 19 and 20. How is this treated?
So what they're looking at is up until the year 18-19. Anything from the 6th of April 19 is irrelevant. So if at any point up until the 6th of April 2019, the partnership began trading, they will probably look at that and look at applying a percentage. So that's why I said if at any point you stopped before that final tax year, then I don't think you'll qualify. But if the partnership started trading any time before the 6th of April 2019, then yes, the share of the partnership profits should indeed be taken into account.
Okay, I'm not going to ask this question, but I'd just like to let Atif Nawaz be aware that we've seen the question, but I do feel that you have already answered it in your previous comments. So I'm going to move on from Wayne. If you are not covered as a director because of being classed as an employee, does that mean you are covered with the 80% as an employee, PAYE?
Indeed, yes. So if you're on monthly PAYE, it's declared every month, then yes, absolutely, you're covered with the 80% of the director's salary that you draw, not the dividends, just the director's salary.
Okay, from Martin Bullock of Cladmaster, specialist cladding by a cladding specialist. Are we expected to pay our staff immediately 80% whilst we receive nothing until July?
Yes, that's the idea of, for example, them giving you more time to make your payments on account, the VAT, etc., is so that they're kind of buying you cash flow while this gets up and running to pay your employees if you need to. I mean, I don't think there's any massive directive to do it. I don't think that. I don't think it's an expectation, but I think the hope is that you can do that with the cash that you, for example, would have put aside for your payments on account in July or for your next VAT bill.
Okay, Joe Royden says, have they given any information on whether they are adjusting for maternity leaves at all when doing their calculations? I have had 2 maternity leaves in the past 3 years.
It's a great question, and unfortunately, the answer is there's nothing about maternity leave. I'm guessing that will be factored in. I'm hoping, in fact, I'm hoping that they don't include that within the calculation. I.e., so if there's a year where you've just had maternity leave, I'm hoping that they kind of don't factor it into calculation so as to lower the average, because I think that would be unfair. And then, to be fair, I think there'd be huge uproar if that wasn't taken into, or if that was sort of taken into account. So my hope or my hunch is also that they won't penalise you for having been expecting a baby during that period, because you couldn't have foreseen this.
Okay, David Bryant asks, in summary, a self-employed person could get the grant in today's announcement, plus universal credit, plus SSP.
Correct, at various different times, because not all of those will apply at exactly the same time. But yes, in various forms, those 3 options will be available.
Okay, now Steve Hinton, the blind man, has been asking this repetitively in different formats with different levels of language. Do you think they will look at directors separately? Surely the IOD will be jumping up and down on this.
It's a potential, but I don't think there's enough. And I think the reason why they might not is because with the changes in IR35, with the changes in dividend tax laws about 3 or 4 years ago, they're not huge fans of the way this is done anyway. They were wanting in some way, shape or form to bring as many directors of limited companies, to kind of pushing them towards being self-employed for a long time, because they don't like the fact that people draw salary and dividends. But there's almost no way around it for them. The changes in IR35 were a huge part of trying to bring this closer together. So it's definitely a possibility, but my hunch on this one is they probably won't.
Okay, and I think the last question on the list at this moment in time is again from Joe Royden. I went to a limited company in December 2018, so my latest tax return I submitted only went up to December 2018. Does this impact on the calculation for the 36 months?
Again, I'm sorry, that's a difficult one to answer, because we don't know how they're going to calculate all these things like the maternity pay, like the mid-year calculations. I'm hoping the point of the form, and this is why they're writing to the taxpayer rather than expecting you to submit a form, because I think if there is a form, there's going to be difficulty in terms of how many people get it back. But I think the reason they want to write to people is so that they can attach guidance, hopefully, with it, which I'm hoping makes things like this clear, because I think it's almost impossible to know. I'm hoping that you can put a note on there to say, hey, look, these were the periods within this 3 years, or maybe include some kind of a timeline to say, here's April 2016, say when this period starts, 18, 19, yeah. April 2016, this 3-year period starts. Include the periods where you were self-employed, and potentially look, I don't know, at kind of explaining where you have quiet periods in that 3 years, which hopefully takes into account questions like yours, Joe.
Okay, that is the end of the questions from the floor. So it's back to you, AJ Dasani.
So just final thank yous again, everyone. Thank you so much again for listening. I know this was really, really last minute, and I did make a little bit of a boo-boo by not putting the time on the email because I was in such a rush to get this email out to all my clients. So apologies for not mentioning the time, but I did try and get this out as quickly as possible. Again, just a kind of final thank you again to Olivia Bard of IO Branding and Kieran Wynyard you for doing such a great job moderating. I'm sure we'll all agree. It really does make it sound a hell of a lot more professional than me just going, Dave said. So that's a big help for me. Thank you very much. And just again for my team at Ace and Merckler Sharp for doing a great job. And please, everyone, just stay safe. Please watch the webinars. Keep in touch with us on our socials. Ace Accountants and Merckler Sharp. We will keep sharing as much as we can live on there, because the situation is so incredibly fast moving, and hopefully we'll be doing more of these if things change at any point in the future.
Martin Bullock has one final question. Have you had your teeth whitened?
No, I wish I could. I don't think I should be going to a dentist right now.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us here this evening. This is the Man in Black signing off, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Good night.